Hey Blender Maniacs, this is Alex Quarterbard for BlenderMania3.com, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at how to create an awesome little waterfall using the new Mantaflow system in Blender. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Alright, I promised myself I wouldn't sing anymore, but if anyone's seen We're the Millers movie, hilarious stuff. So we're going to create the scene here with the rocks, the ivy, the waterfall, and all that good stuff. So let's get right to it. We're going to first start off with a new scene right here, delete the default cube, and add in a plane. With the plane, we're going to go ahead and extrude this edge down on the Z-axis with the E key and extrude it on the Y-axis. Next, hitting tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything. We're going to right click, subdivide once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and even a 5th time just for good luck. Alright, now going back to object mode, control tab, sculpt mode, and we're going to hold down control and go ahead and sculpt in a basin area at the top right here for our water to go, and also a waterfall area because, you know, if our water is not falling, it's not really a waterfall, guys, right? Hold down the shift key also to smooth it out, and once again, make sure it's deep enough for your water to go in there. In object mode, right click, shade smooth, and back in sculpt mode, let's make sure to sculpt in a basin area right there. Next, we're going to hit Shift A, add an icosphere, make sure the subdivisions are at 1, and then edit mode, tab, go ahead and go in proportional editing with the O key, and shape your rock however you want, like so. Sweet, we got one rock. Now going to our favorite website after BlenderMania3.com, textures.com. You can use a lava rock texture if you want. We're going to be using this rock texture right here. And with this rock texture, we're going to download the albedo at 1024 by 1024, the normal map, and the roughness map. So go ahead and download those. Once you have, back in Blender, we're going to create a new material, name it rock, change it to image texture, and go ahead and open up that albedo rock image texture. How cool is this? We're creating a waterfall, guys. Alright, sweet. Now what we want to do is go ahead and split the viewport, change this to the shader editor, and we're going to hit Shift A, add a texture, image texture, go ahead and open up the roughness map. Change this to non-color data and connect it to the roughness, and then Shift A, add another image texture, open up the normal map, change this to non-color data as well, connect it to normal, Shift A, vector, normal map, and boom, there we go, we have a rock. Now we're going to select our waterfall, shift select our rock, control L, copy the materials. Sweet, but it looks terrible, so select the waterfall, go into edit mode, U, smart UV project, and click OK. And there we go. Now we're going to change this over here to the UV editor. In edit mode, A to select all the UVs and scale them up just a little bit so that it's not so stretched. Now with the rock selected, all we want to do is go ahead and scale it up and place it around the waterfall. And we're going to hit Shift D to duplicate it, tab to go into edit mode, and with the proportional editing on, the O key, we're just going to reshape these rocks so that they're not all the same, right? Nature is very diverse and very has a lot of different rocks. They're not all the same. So we're going to change them, place them around the waterfall. Now an important thing is with the rocks in front of the waterfall wall, you want them to be inside the wall. Otherwise, if there's a gap between them, the water will fall behind the rocks. So again, these rocks on the front over here, make sure that they're sitting inside the wall of your waterfall. Alright, sweet. So just place these all the way around. A to select all of them, deselect your camera and your lamp. And with all these selected, we're going to hit tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything, U, smart UV project, and click OK one more again. And then the UVs, A to select them all, S to scale them up. And we're just going to scale it up a little bit so that it's not so stretched. Sweet. Look at that. We are starting to get a waterfall. Let's select this, go into sculpt mode, and sculpt this edge down with holding down the control so that it goes into the rock right there. And on the other side as well. Alright, sweet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add in our ivy. So go ahead, Shift A, we're going to add a curve, Bezier curve, and hit tab to go into edit mode, X, delete the vertices. And now on the left, a really cool option is we have a draw curve feature right here, draw. And if we select this, if we left click and draw, we could draw a curve. How cool is that? Now we want to go up here to the settings and we want to change it from cursor to surface. So that now if we draw on a surface, the curve will conform to the surface. Magic. It is super awesome. However, the segments are too far apart. So going back to the settings, we're going to change the tolerance. If it's a lower number, there will be more segments and it will conform better to the surface. So we're going to change this from 8 to 2 pixels so that it is conforming better. And now you can see that, look at that, we got some more curves and it went on the camera. So let's redo that. All right, here we're just going to draw in a main branch for the ivy. Starting from this rock right here, we're just going to draw it out over all these rocks and then draw in or draw out some segments from that rock right there. And just like that, we have an ivy curve. Now, add ivy all over your waterfall because, again, this is nature. Nature tends to take over everything. So go ahead and draw in your ivy curves just like that. And there we go, we got ivy everywhere. Hit tab to go back to object mode. And with this curve selected, we're going to go down here to the curve options. Under the curve options, under geometry, we're going to increase the depth to 0.02. Sweet, and look at that, it looks like veins. How cool is that? Now we're going to go to object, convert to, and make sure to first select your mesh. Object, convert to mesh, and now it is a mesh. We're now going to hit Shift A and we are going to add in a plane. We're going to make a very simple leaf. Tab to go into edit mode. Control R, add a loop cut there, add another one there, and bring this one up on the Y axis, sorry. Bring this down, scale it up, and this bottom one, E to extrude. We're going to bring it down and scale it down. Now, what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and add an ivy texture to this. Going back to textures.com, again, our second favorite site after BlenderMania3D.com, we're going to search for ivy. And we're going to select this texture right here. Go ahead and download the 512 by 512. You could also get the normal map if you want. Adding a new material, change this to image texture, and open up that ivy image. And now splitting it, going to the UV editor, we're going to hit tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything, U unwrap, and go ahead and scale this down, rotate it, and place it over the ivy leaf like so. Brilliant. All right, there we go. Now the most important thing is you want to make sure that the origin point is at the bottom of the vertices there. So move the leaf up in edit mode. Now select your object, go to the particle system, add a new particle and hair. Boom, spaghetti. Now we want to go to the render, change it from path to object, and select the object plane for our leaf right there. And look at that, we got ivy. We want to select advanced on the tab and then select rotation and increase the random phase and the phase under rotation. And also with velocity hair, it tends to go into the rock a little bit, so we're going to change it to global Z. And you will see that with global Z, it doesn't go into the rock as much. So with global Z selected or object Z, either one, increase the random phase and the randomize factor right there. And boom. Then under scale randomness, we're going to increase that and also decrease the scale a little bit. I'm also going to increase the number to 2000. And there we go. With that selected, we're going to add a new material and make it green for the ivy strand. Look at that, we got some ivy. How sweet is that? I mean, the spaghetti was kind of cool too. All right, selecting our waterfall right here. In edit mode, we're going to alt left click this edge loop, deselect these by B middle mouse clicking and E to extrude it out. Same thing on the other side, E to extrude it out so that we have a floor. Next, we're going to go ahead and get some dirt texture for this. Now, again, you can use whatever dirt texture you want. I'm going to use this one right here. And again, you could get the normal map if you want. Back in Blender, we're going to go ahead and add a new material to this, name it dirt, load in that dirt texture, and then in edit mode, Alt left click these face loops, and then C to bring up your brush tool and brush any faces that will be assigned to the dirt, and click assign, and then U unwrap and unwrap those faces. Next, what we want to do is in the vertex data, add a new group and assign those faces to that group, and Control R, add a couple loop cuts to add loop cuts there, and add in a new particle system hair, and under the group, under the vertex groups, we're going to select the group under the density tab right there. Next, we're going to hit Shift A, add a plane. We're going to draw or sculpt in or model a grass blade. Now this looks more like a sword blade, but it's a grass blade. Scale it on the x-axis. Make sure that the origin point is at the bottom of the blade. And we're going to add in a new material, make it green, and then shade it smooth and bring up the roughness. Next, in edit mode, we're going to add 3 loop cuts, Control R, and in side view, just go ahead with proportional editing and rotate it a little bit and bend it. All right, we got one grass blade, but let's hit Shift D in edit mode, copy it, and rotate it over so that we got another one, and then another one, and this one we're going to rotate it to its side like that. So now we have a very simple grass thing. Make sure the origin point is at the bottom of all those. Next, back to our particle system, we're going to go over here, and under the render as, we're going to change that to object and change it to the plane 002. And now we have grass. The next thing we want to do is, once we have the grass, we're going to go ahead and go to advanced, select advanced, and select rotation, and increase the phase and the randomized phase as well so that our grass is not straight. And we're going to go ahead and increase the scale randomness so that we have different variation, and also decrease the scale as well because it's a little bit too big. So I'm going to decrease the scale to 0.03. All right, sweet. Now in edit mode, I'm going to go ahead and select all the vertices where there should be no grass, and then go to the group and remove it so that there's no grass there. Sweet. How cool is that? It's coming along nicely. Now with the waterfall, we want to go ahead and add in some thickness to this. So add a modifier, solidify, increase the thickness, because the fluid simulation, if it doesn't have thickness, it doesn't work well sometimes. Go ahead and apply it, and now you can see that we got some grass at the bottom. So in edit mode, we're going to go ahead and select all these vertices where there's grass underneath, and go ahead and remove it from the group because we do not want grass underneath our world. And that one as well. All right, sweet. How cool is that? I'm also going to remove those as well. Now under the material, I'm going to increase the roughness for the dirt, select the waterfall, and what we're going to do now is go ahead and with the waterfall selected, apply the location, rotation, and scale by hitting Control A. Now this is important because sometimes you could have issues if you don't apply those. Under the fluid simulation or the physics, we're going to select fluid, and we're going to make this one an effector collision. Again, this is with the main waterfall selected. We're going to select effector, and it's going to be the type collision. Sweet. So now our water is going to collide with that. We want to do the same thing with these rocks, as the water is going to go down and collide with these, so change them to effector collision as well. And these ones as well. All right. Cool. So now that we got that, we're going to copy this rock over, and as you can see, we got some jagged areas here. So I'm just going to go ahead and first select all these vertices here where there should be no grass, go back to the grass and remove it from the group so that we don't have grass around on the rocks. Now on this, because I knew I was going to be placing some rocks around the basin area, I did it this way, and it's pretty blocky, but you could also texture paint in your dirt or your rocks so that it blends in smoother. But since I knew I was going to put some rocks around here, I didn't really care that it was jagged with the texture there. So again, just Shift D, copy the rocks over, change them around a little bit, and place some rocks all around your basin area, just like that. Sweet. I think we need a dinosaur in here or something, some Jurassic Park thing. I'm going to Alt left click this face loop in front view, U, and project from view, just so that it's not so stretched. Next, what we want to do is under the physics tab, we just want to go ahead and make sure that all these rocks are set to effector collision. And now we're going to add a UV sphere. This will be our inflow object. Bring it to the top of your basin area, scale it down, and then we want to make sure to also hit Control A, location, rotation, and scale on that as well. And shade smooth. All right, and also apply the scale on all these as well. Again, anything that requires fluid simulation, make sure to apply the scale on those. With the sphere selector, we're going to change it to fluid, flow, and change it from smoke. We're going to be changing this to, instead of smoke, to liquid. So once we select liquid, we're also going to change it from geometry to inflow. Again, check out my other tutorials that goes into the in-depth into the settings of Mantaflow. We're going to hit Shift A now, add a cube, and as you guessed it, this will be our domain for our scene. Now make sure that the domain encompasses your whole scene, because otherwise it's not going to work properly. And we're going to go to fluid, change this to domain, and change this from gas to liquid. Pretty self-explanatory. Now the resolution divisions in the final render, I had them to 140. And also the time scale, you could put that down as well if you find that the liquid is going too fast. You could put the time scale down to 0.5 or something like that. Now down here, this right here is the cache fluid. This will be where your cache is saved. And then down here, this is the frame start and the end frame. We're going to change the end frame to 200. Now again, check out my other tutorials on Mantaflow where I go more in depth on this. But for now, we're going to go ahead and make sure that everything is set correctly. And then once we've done that, we want to go ahead and we're going to select Bake Data, which is going to bake the data. Now what's cool about Mantaflow is you could hit the escape key to pause it, and then you could press the space bar to play it, and you can see that we got some particles here, which means that we have fluid simulation. But of course we only have like a couple frames, so it's very disappointing. So we're going to click on resume and resume our baking. Once that's done baking, we could hit play or the space bar, and you will see that now we will have a bunch of particles everywhere, and it's particle glory. How cool is that? Yes, I said it again. All right, now we got particles, but we don't really have water. So the way Mantaflow works is you bake it in steps. First, we bake in the fluid, then we got bake in the mesh. Under here, we have mesh. Also, another thing I want to mention, under here, we could actually change the presets of the water to make it look more like honey, water, or, you know, some thicker liquid, etc. But you have to do that before you bake it. For now, we're going to go to mesh, select mesh. And again, if you want to see all these settings, check out my other video, which goes over them. But for now, I'm going to click bake mesh. And we just got to wait for this to bake the mesh. And once it's done, if we hit play, look at that. We got milk. Right click, shade smooth, and we got a milk waterfall. Now we're going to bake in the particles, the spray, foam, and bubbles. So just select all three of those and click bake. All right, to make the particles work, we're going to select new on the waterfall, create a watercolor. We're going to increase the brightness all the way up by scrolling the mouse wheel on the base color. We're going to put the transmission to 1. We're going to put the roughness down to 0. Again, we're creating the water texture. And then down here, we're going to go to the settings. We're going to change the blend mode to alpha blend. And then we're going to select screen space refraction. We need to also select this in the settings over here under screen space reflections. We're going to select the drop down, select that, and also select refraction there as well. Now you need to make sure to have refraction selected here and under the material. So again, you can see it's selected there and under the material as well for it to work. All right, now change the IOR to 1.333 because that's the IOR of water, and that's what we're going for. Next, we're going to want to do the particles or the foam spray. So we're going to hit Shift A, add an icosphere, make sure it's set to 1, shade it smooth, and add a new material. We're going to put the transmission up a little bit and the emission up to a whiter color. Very, very simple. And now selecting the fluid system, or actually we're going to select the inflow object first, go to visibility, And we're going to deselect show in viewport and show in render because we don't want that showing, obviously. Now, under the particle system of your water, you can see we have spray, foam, and bubbles. We have 2,000 particles for spray, foam 5,000, and bubbles 7,000. Now, under this, we're going to change it to object, and we're going to select the icosphere right there for all three of them, for the spray, foam, and bubbles. And now it looks like we got like some kind of cereal or foam stuff in there. So we're going to scale it way down like that. And then with the waterfall, in my final render, I deselected the foam and the bubbles. But you could render all three if you want. And also I had the resolution divisions to 140. And you could put this time frame down if you want it to go slower. But let's play that. Look at that. We got a waterfall. Now, I'm going to change the end frame to 90. As you can see right now, if it goes past 90, the water starts to fall out of the basin area. I'll probably do a tutorial in the future where it could continuously inflow and not overflow. But for now, this is a really cool, awesome little animation that we have here. So let's go ahead and hit Ctrl-Alt-0, place the camera here, and render it out. And it looks terrible because we forgot the lighting. So let's go to the World tab, change it to Environment Texture, open an HDRI image, and the one I'm using is on textures.com, search HDRI, and it's this texture right here with the trees. Alright, and then under the setting film, I'm going to select transparent so that it's not in the background. Selecting the lamp, let's change that to a sun lamp with a strength of 4 and rotate it however you want. And that's pretty much it. Very awesome job. I look forward to seeing your final waterfall animation. Subscribe to this channel. I have almost daily uploads of new tutorials, and check out BlenderMania3.com for more tutorials and join the community over there. Again, very well done. Ciao for now. Au revoir.